What's going on? Hope everybody's doing well. So first off, welcome aboard to the first and second official episodes of the Q&A series. I want to give a big apology to everybody who I promised I was going to drop the video every Sunday. I know I missed the last few days, but to make it up to you guys, I got more questions. It's a big 2-in-1 video, and I even threw in a couple of extra questions to make it up to you guys. So I want you guys to understand that sometimes life gets in the way. Sometimes I might get sick. I'm a human being too when stuff happens to me as well. So I'm never gonna leave the channel. The channel's always gonna be there. But if I miss a couple days, it's not the end of the world. In the grand scheme of things, the content is still gonna be posted. So got all my questions right here. Let's get into it. Why don't you recommend wrestler bridges, and what about the safety of them? Okay, anybody who knows me knows that when it comes to neck training, I'm not that much of a big advocate of neck bridges. I'm more of a neck harness kind of guy, neck curl, and I never really talk much about neck bridges because one, I've never really done too many of them myself, and I just don't like them. I find that especially for the heavyweight guys to start doing neck bridges, it's very complicated at first. You have to go through all these progressions, whereas if you buy yourself a quality neck harness, it makes your life a lot easier. And you do neck curls off a bench, it's a lot easier to keep track of progress. There's less muscles involved. It's pretty much all neck for the most part. And when you're doing these neck bridges, it's more of a full body movement. So I tell people that if you're into wrestling, then you could definitely go through the neck bridge route. But if you're into bodybuilding, you just want to build a tree trunk neck, there's nothing wrong with taking my approach where you just do the neck harness and you do neck curls. And I know that I was reading a Jim Wendler Q&A, and he mentioned the same thing, how he just recommends the basics when it comes to neck. And if you're into wrestling, you could definitely go that route. But even if you are into wrestling, you could still incorporate some neck harness work as well. So that's my 2 cents. Favorite fitness YouTubers to watch. Okay, my fitness YouTubers I like to watch are constantly changing. They're always rotating. But my little disclaimer right now is that I don't have anything against guys who are running a ton of drugs. You know, it's none of my business for what another man's doing with his body. But I personally like to watch guys who are drug-free because it's something that I could really relate to. It's not to take away from the hard work of the guys who are on drugs, but that's just what I like. I just have a thing for naturals, you know? So also keep in mind that the guys that I watch, who knows, maybe they're on drugs, or maybe they were, or maybe they're gonna be on drugs. But I know that through my assessment and what I personally believe, they most likely aren't. So I like Mike the Machine. He's very entertaining. He has his own thing going on with the neck training. He's very unique. I like Bud Jeffries. He brings something new to the table. Eric Bugenhagen, of course. And there's also a YouTuber named Mitchell Tom32. He hasn't posted in a couple years, but I personally do believe he's drug-free. And to me, he has a great physique. He's bear mode, super strong, and just very inspirational. Also, Alex, it was really nice to see his bench press competition. There's a bunch of motivational people I like to watch, but I understand that it's constantly changing. So I don't like to just set my mind on one particular person. It's always rotating. The same thing can be said about my music that I listen to, so on and so forth. Workout on an empty stomach. Thoughts? Okay, when it comes to working out on an empty stomach, should you do it or not? And just, you know, the whole pre-workout thing, I personally think it's all about personal preference. You know, some days I might have a bowl of pasta an hour and a half before the gym. Other days it might be a banana or two before I walk in the warm-up room. You know, some days I might not even eat before the gym. I might just have a bottle of water. It really varies from day to day for me, and it varies from person to person. It really comes down to doing what you feel is right and just rolling with that. You know, there's a million ways to go about it. If you were to take 20 of the strongest lifters, I'm sure they're not all doing exactly the same thing. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to be super anal about it. Just do what feels right, and hopefully it works out. Best way to fix pot belly while bulking. The best way to fix a pot belly while bulking is just to not get a pot belly in the first place. I always recommend to guys that you shouldn't go over the 20% body fat range. And a lot of people think that 20% body fat is super fat, but you're still gonna have a flat stomach in most cases if you're 20%. If you're taking it way past that, then you're most likely gonna have a pot belly. So I know there's a chart on Google that shows what every body fat percentage looks like on average. And you'll see that the 20% people do not have a pot belly. So if you have a pot belly, you're most likely 25, maybe even 30%. So you shouldn't even be thinking about bulking right now if you have a pot belly. You should actually be on a cut, in my humble opinion. So just take it with a grain of salt and go on a cut, and it's gonna be a lot better for your health. I know I'm cutting myself too, it feels a lot better. So let me know how it feels. Aggressive versus slow cutting. Thoughts? I'm only a big advocate of aggressive cutting if the individual is very overweight. So if you have an obese individual, let's say they're 5'11" and they weigh 320 pounds, then yes, I'd be a big advocate of aggressive cutting because their health is on the line. So in that case, they could afford to lose 3 or 4 pounds a week because they have so much fat on their body that they need to lose it. And even if some of it's muscle, it's not the end of the world. They're overweight and they need to lose the weight as soon as possible. Whereas if you have somebody on the other end of the spectrum, let's say they're 200 pounds and they're 5'11" and they want to go on a cut, they could afford to make it a slower cut. And I know for myself, I'm around 217 right now and I'm losing around a pound a week. And I had somebody on Instagram message me saying, Phil, your cut is way too slow. You started cutting in May, you were 234 and we're in August and you're only 217. And a pound a week is not fast at all. But in my opinion, I'm not competing in anything. I'm a recreational lifter and there's no rush. It's no race. I'm not getting a medal or a trophy if I lose a pound and 25 every week as opposed to just a pound. So I'm taking my time with it. And some weeks I even lost, half a pound. But the weight scale is going down and that's all that matters. So just to answer your question, unless if you're obese, I'm actually for slow cutting. And the same thing can be said vice versa. If you're trying to gain weight, I'm not a big advocate of putting on too much weight too fast either. But on the other end of the spectrum, if you're anorexic, then yes, I would recommend that you up the calories even more. And you could probably afford to put on, 3 or 4 pounds a week if you're anorexic. So if you're on the extreme ends of the spectrum, then you could do it aggressively. But if you're more in the middle, do it a bit slower. Can you do a Q&A with Mart Seam? He's a drug-tested guy and has amazing lifts. 150 kg strict press, 310 kg snatch grip deadlift. I'll have to look into his work a little bit more to see if I want to get him on the channel. But in most cases, I'm always willing to learn. And I don't even care if the person's not even a lifter. I've interviewed rowers, competitive food eaters, arm wrestlers, whatever the case is. I'm always soaking up more information. I'm kind of like a sponge. I've been saying it since day one. I've been recycling the same quote. I only know one thing, and that's that I know nothing at all. So that's what separates me from a lot of these other YouTubers. They act like they know it all, whereas me, I'm always willing to learn. I always keep that white belt mentality, and that's why if you guys recommend somebody, I'll definitely look them up, and I'll probably reach out to them and say, hey, you want to get on my channel? If I feel like that they're appropriate for my channel, and if I feel like it's actually going to give value to the audience. But hope that answers your question. I'll look into his work. And to all the rest of the viewers, if you guys have any suggestions for anybody else going to possibly get on the channel, write them down in the comment section below. Weakest body part and how are you planning on getting better at it? Okay, so I don't have one particular body part that I'm trying to prioritize because my priority right now is just to get healthy overall. I want healthier hips. I want to fix this foot imbalance and all these other imbalances I got going on in my lower body so that way I could have better alignment, better posture, and more structure when I lift. So I'm less prone to injuries and stuff of that nature, and I could post some more motivational clips for you guys to complement the educational clips. So with that being said, as far as my weakest body parts and stuff that I really do want to bring up, it's really my upper arms. I feel like my back is pretty good, delts are pretty good, lower body. I have some pretty developed muscle groups, but it's just my upper arms. They just look very tiny in comparison to my other muscles. So what I'm doing about this is I ordered a multitude of different arm products, so different bars, different products of that nature. And by the way, I'm also going to be starting a product review series. So I'm going to be kind of like a guinea pig for you guys, going over products and telling you guys my perspective on if you should buy it or not, if it's worth it. And trust me, I have wasted a lot of money on certain things, but I don't like to just say that I tried it when I didn't. So I'm experimenting with a lot of different stuff, and I do have to say that these new 2 bars that I ordered are really good for arm training. So I should see some arm growth with those. Also the fact that I'm cutting, you're gonna be able to see the definition in my upper arms a lot more too. So I'm gonna keep you guys posted on that, and I hope that answers your question. Forearm tips for meaty forearms. Okay, I've talked a lot about this in the past, but like I mentioned in the last question, I ordered a multitude of different bars for direct arm work in particular. And I'm gonna be mentioning this in my next few episodes when I do my product review, because there are some bars I ordered that are extremely good for form development, so just stay tuned for that. Best exercise for lower outer chest development. Okay, there is no such thing. Every chest exercise targets the lower outer chest. Every chest exercise targets the whole chest in particular. It's just some emphasize certain areas a little bit more, but the whole chest is getting recruited. So if you're doing incline press, you're still recruiting lower pecs. If you're doing a decline press, you're still recruiting some upper pecs. So you can't escape that. It's really a lot about genetics. When people say lower outer chest, when people say what's the best exercise for my bicep peak, that's more of a genetic factor. But with that being said, if you want to build your chest a lot more, one thing that I've been learning about chest training is more full range of motion presses. One mistake that I've made a lot in the past was very excessive arching. And this may be good for powerlifting, but if we're talking about bodybuilding related stuff, you want to minimize your arch to get more range of motion, and you also want to do slight pauses because that's when the chest really has its time to shine. And if you want a really good lift I've been playing around with that my coach has been assigning me, it's the Larson press, because when you do this, you can't arch much, getting a great range of motion. If you add a slight pause to it, it's a great lift. And also you can't use any leg drive, so it's pretty much all chest for the most part. And if I could throw in one more bonus tip, this is coming straight from the bodybuilders, you could do some pre-exhausting, just some light pump works, like some pec deck. You could do 2 sets of 30 seconds just to get a great chest pump. And you're gonna notice that when you get into your presses, like your Larson press, your bench press, you should feel your chest working a lot more. And this is especially true if you do the slight pause like I was talking about. So hope that helps. Would you ever do a Bulgarian training cycle? I don't know what the future holds, but I know as of right now, I'm following my coach's protocols. I'm doing an upper-lower split. It's kind of powerlifter-ish, if you will. And the whole objective is to fix my injury, my imbalances, posture, all that kind of stuff. So I could be in better alignment, so I could start lifting heavier. So we're building the base back up in the gym 4 days a week. And on off days, I'm training my neck, I'm doing GPP. So I'm doing something physically active every day, and also the GPP helps because I'm cutting a bit as well. But as far as the Bulgarian cycle is concerned, I don't know what the future holds. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. So stay tuned. What kind of physique can you expect from the SilverBack program? Okay, this is a great question. The SilverBack program is really more of a bodybuilding type program, but with that being said, it's also a general strength and conditioning program that can be applied for novices all the way to advanced lifters. They're just slight changes. To everybody who purchased the program, that was the unofficial. I'm gonna make a couple of changes to the official version with the book to go along with it. But it's really just general strength and also more for bodybuilding in the sense that I'm really targeting certain muscles, or should I say I'm emphasizing certain muscles within the program. So your whole body is gonna grow. There's emphasis on the whole body, but there's just a little bit of extra emphasis on the whole back, the delts, and the triceps. And what I mean by this is there's a lot of snatch grip lifts, there's a lot of close grip presses, and there's a lot of tricep work, So those are the areas I feel like are really important if you want to look as thick and wide as possible drug-free, and even not on drugs. But that's just about it. You're still gonna get some big legs off SilverBack, you're still gonna get a big chest, close grip bench is still great for the chest, and you're still gonna get some great forms and all that other stuff, but just there's a little bit more emphasis on the back, delts, and triceps. So if you have any questions, write them down below, but I hope that helps. How do you lift heavy alone? As in heavy, I mean mental drive to hype yourself up to lift heavy. Okay, there's a couple ways you could go about this, but first things first, just to get out the way, you wanna be lifting in a power rack, safety bar rack, some kind of rack if you're lifting alone, because when you're benching, if you fail a rep, you could just drop it on the pins. If you're squatting, you could drop it on the pins. There's a lot of lifts that are a lot safer when done in the rack when you're training alone. As for the mental aspect, there's the whole pre-workout aspect where coffee and pre-workouts, but I'm gonna dig a bit deeper than that because you can't just rely on a coffee just to feel hyped up for the gym. It has to be something that's really inside of you. You have to have the drive to hit those PRs. So if you're really a meathead and you really want to hit those PRs, really want to get some better numbers, this is something that you have to have floating in your head all day long. You have to be thinking about those PRs all day long. You're in school or you're working, and you're training at night, and you're just envisioning hitting those PRs. It's something that is in you or it's not. And you can't really force somebody to have this kind of mentality. It's kind of like it's in you or it's not. It's kind of like dancing. I don't really care about dancing. I don't want to learn how to dance. And if you were to put me in a dance class, I would half-ass it because that's not what I'm passionate about. But when it comes to lifting weights, that's what I'm thinking about throughout the day. I want to get bigger, I want to get stronger. So just to answer your question, the drive is there or it's not. And there's nothing you can really do to force it. Safety of deadlifting daily. Okay, if you're talking about deadlifting daily, you're probably referring to some kind of Bulgarian training system like I mentioned in the last few questions. And I'm personally not a big advocate of the conventional deadlift, if that's what you're talking about, for doing it every single day, because you're probably going to burn out and it's a very taxing lift. And I know that in one of Eric's old Q&As or interviews, or whatever the case is, he mentioned how he doesn't like doing the conventional deadlift on a Bulgarian cycle because it's such a taxing lift. Now, if we're talking about other deadlifting variations like a trap bar deadlift, Jefferson, hack, maybe even a sumo, you could probably get away with that. Or if you're doing it very sub-max, you know, your RPs are very low, that could probably work too. But there's different ways to go about it. Depends on your recovery, it depends on your lifestyle, you know, how taxing is your job, how much recovery do you have, how many other lifts you're doing that day. But generally speaking, if we're talking about the conventional deadlift, I personally don't think you should be doing it more than, 2-3 times a week. That's just my opinion. But also, it depends on your level of expertise. Are you a novice or you're an advanced lifter? If you're an advanced lifter, you're pulling 700 pounds. There's no way you'll be able to do that a couple times a week. So it's a more taxing lift, takes more to recover from it. But if you're a novice, maybe you want to get the groove down more. But even at that, it's not necessary for a novice to deadlift every single day of the week. So, twice a week should be fine. But there's a lot of factors that come into play. So on another note, try to make these questions a little bit more specific if you can. Try to tell me training experience, makes it a lot easier for me. And that's just that. Thoughts on RPE style training. Okay, I'm relatively new to the RPE style training, but I've been working with my coach who happens to be a powerlifter for around 6-7 weeks now. And he has me on a 4 days a week, upper lower system that has some RPs in the mix. I know some people online, they argue about the effectiveness of it and how there's other methods. RPs are just another tool in the box that you could use for your programming, and they're good for a recovery standpoint in my opinion, because if it says RP 7, it means to leave some reps in the tank. Not every single set that you do has to be balls to the wall. And I mainly like it from a technique standpoint because there's a lot of lifters who do every set balls to the wall, and eventually the reps really start looking sloppy. With RPE, if you're doing RPE 8, that means leave like 2 reps in the tank. If you're leaving 2 reps in the tank, that means the reps that you're actually doing in that set are going to be cleaner. So it makes it a lot easier for the coach to be able to dictate your progress. And there's a host of other benefits when it comes to RP, and there may be some drawbacks too. I still have to do more experimentation with it, but I'm going to keep you guys posted. So maybe at around 12 weeks in, I'll be able to give you guys more information on my opinion on RPE. But up to date, that's it. I really like it for the technique standpoint, and that's just bear mode from Calisthenics. Okay, I know my buddy AD, Al, my pal, he just made a video on this thing that's called bear mode from Calisthenics. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like this question. And the reason why I don't is because there's way more optimal ways to go about things. If you're trying to get the bear mode physique, which is a higher body fat, which is obviously acquired with food, mostly, and the whole bear mode is, a thick upper back, you got big delts, big traps, you got the whole yoke region. Calisthenics is not the most optimal way. I'm just gonna keep it real. In calisthenics, you can't do any snatch grip lifts, which is what I'm really big on. You could do wide grip pull-ups, but for the most part, you're not gonna get the thickest back of all time doing that. I'm a big advocate of the SilverBack style training, which is, a lot of snatch grip lifts, high pulls, all the strongman movements and Olympic weightlifting exercises. But when you do calisthenics, you're really limited. You're training a bit more like a gymnast. So with calisthenics and the whole bear mode thing, the fact that you up your body fat is gonna help, and the fact that you do wrestler bridges is gonna help as well. But the thing is, I'm not even a big advocate of wrestler bridges, like I mentioned in the last few questions. So it could definitely be done, especially if you have good genetics. You could still acquire somewhat of a bear mode look. Like Mike Tyson did a lot of wrestler bridges, but for the most part, why not just get a gym membership? It doesn't have to be the best gym. Or why not just order, a barbell with a couple plates and train at home? That'd be way more optimal than just trying to get the whole bear mode physique using strictly calisthenics. So that's just my 2 cents. And just for the record, these whole questions where people say, oh, this or that, you guys have to stop thinking this whole black and white mentality. Just use every tool in the toolbox and understand that some tools are more optimal than others. You don't have to just limit yourself to just the weights or just calisthenics. You could use a blend of the two. You don't have to marry yourself to one style of training all the time. It's not going to kill you if you've trained calisthenics all your life and you just touch a few weights every now and then. There's nothing wrong with that. So hope that helps, and let's move on to the next question. Zerchers for trap development. I think Zerchers are a great tool to have in the toolbox, but it's not an end-all be-all, and you shouldn't just base your trap work off of Zercher lifts. I think they're great to have in your program, but it's definitely not the most bang for your buck way to approach getting bigger traps. I'm more of a snatch grip kind of guy, so snatch grip deadlift, snatch grip rack pull below the kneecap, high pulls, but Zerchers could still complement those lifts very well. So if you're gonna do Bulgarian split squats, you could have the bar in a Zercher style, or if you do your squats every now and then, you could do it in a Zercher style. And by the way, I think that out of all the bilateral squats, the Zercher variation is the one that probably hits the traps the hardest, because there's the weighted stretch and the weight is hanging in the crooks of your elbows. So I think it's a great tool to have, but with that being said, there are still some drawbacks. You know, some people get aggravated elbows off the Zercher, so it depends. But at the end of the day, I don't think you're missing out on that much if you don't have Zerchers in your program. Just my 2 cents. Front squats for upper back development. I think the front squat is a great upper back builder, and it's a very underrated upper back builder. And the reason why is because when you do a back squat, you could do more of a good morning, you could lean forward and still get the weight up. Whereas when you do the front squat, you can't lean forward as much, you're gonna dump the bar. So I think it's a great tool to really keep you very upright in the squat, but it also recruits the upper back very hard, because the upper back has to work extremely hard in an isometric fashion so you don't lean forward. But what I like a lot about the front squat too for back development is that it carries over well to other lifts. So if your front squat goes up by, let's say, 100 pounds, your deadlift's most likely gonna go up too. If your deadlift goes up, now you got stronger rows, because now you're gonna be able to barbell roll more, dumbbell roll more, and your back's just gonna be getting bigger all over. So the front squat is definitely a valuable tool to have in your arsenal if you wanna get the biggest back possible. And that's why I put the front squat in my SilverBack program. So hope that helps. Feeling lower back on snatch grip deadlift, weakness or bad build? Okay, so first things first, it would really help if you could send me a video. So if you could send it to Pg.coaching on Instagram in my DMs, I could definitely go over your form with you. But with that being said, just for the sake of this question, a lot of people who do send me their technique on this lift, it's not really a bad build. And sometimes it could be a weakness, but most of the time it's the fact that they're not used to the lift. So it feels really awkward. And also depends on the anthropometry of the individual. So some people have very short arms and they're doing the conventional deadlift. And then literally overnight they go into the snatch grip deadlift. And it feels really awkward because they're getting more bent over. They got these T-Rex arms, and that doesn't help either. So just a general rule of thumb, if you're really new to the snatch grip deadlift, just take it very slowly, like I mentioned in the SilverBack unofficial program. And just take it a couple inches per week. And next thing you know, your body's gonna adapt, it's gonna adjust to it. And next thing you know, you'll be doing the snatch grip deadlift. But remember what I said, send me the video, it can help me a lot more. So help me help you. And let's get on to the next question. Is it okay to only do neck curls for the neck? That's actually how I first started training my neck. I would just do the neck curl. And it definitely does work. But if we're talking about being as optimal as possible, I would definitely invest in a neck harness. But then again, it depends on your neck goals. Some people don't even train the neck. Some people don't even care. So it all depends on how far you want to take your neck development. Ideally, you want a neck harness, and ideally, you want to watch my neck playlist where I talk about how to build a bigger neck and stuff of that nature. But if you want to just do, 4 sets of 25, 2 to 3 times a week at the end of your workout on the neck curl, it could definitely work too. And yeah. Farmer walk handle with the barbell tilts every time I take a step. So some people try to replicate the farmer walk handle by grabbing onto 2 barbells, but the problem is that there's too much wrist stabilization involved. So you're just trying to work your wrist the whole time, and you don't maximize the conditioning benefits because it just feels so awkward in your hands. So what you could do instead is watch my video where I talk about alternatives with the easy bars. You could have 1 easy bar per hand. You could just do 1 arm farmer walks with an easy bar. That could definitely work. You also use a trap bar if your gym has one. And I know that sites like Rogue or Elite FTS also sell mini farmer walk handles where you just attach weights at the bottom. That could definitely work as well. Or you could even make your own farmer walk handles. So the farmer walk is not a revolutionary, crazy exercise that you can't make yourself. All you're doing is just walking with weights in your hands. So you could definitely find a way to make it happen through other DIY methods. So hope that helps. Weighted dips and OHP, do they go well together? These are phenomenal exercises, but at the same time, it really depends what your goal is. If your goal is to get the strongest overhead press possible and you're using the weighted dip as in your main assistance exercise, it may not be the most optimal way to go about it. You might need some pause work. You might need some dead stop work. You have to just go over your weaknesses, you know, or maybe you're weak overall. It really depends. You might need some face pulls. And these are great exercises, but you have to tell me more specifically, you know, what's your whole system? What other exercises are you doing as opposed to just these 2 exercises and if they're good. So I hope that helps. The last question of the day, what made you start lifting? So it's not the most groundbreaking answer, but when I was younger, I was really into chess. Then I got into basketball as I got into my teens. And then after that point, I just needed something new. So I was 140, 5'11". I didn't like the way I looked. I didn't like the way I really felt psychologically. So I tried something new and I just started working out. And it was a great feeling overall. Just like a recreational bodybuilder, I liked the sensation, I liked the pump, I liked the soreness the next day. Then as I got more sucked into the lifestyle, I just liked everything about it. So that's why I'm here till this day. It's because I like training. You know, I have a passion for it and I have a passion for helping other people out. And I like it when people learn from my mistakes. Even though everybody has to go through certain things for themselves, I like showing people a better way, a faster way, so they don't have to make all the mistakes that I've made. So I hope that helps. And that's just that. There you guys have it. Hope you learned something from today's episode. It was a 2-in-1 Q&A. And hopefully you guys learned some lessons and just reap some knowledge from everything that I said. And maybe even watch the video in its entirety. So, like I mentioned before, I apologize for not posting the last few days. But Fit Will Expose is back. I'm not going anywhere. I might take a little break for a couple days here and there. But for the most part, Fit Will Expose is here to stay. I'm always going to drop more knowledge. And I'm always going to have some content in the bag. So I just reached 215 today, so I should have some posing updates or some photo updates. And I also got some product reviews on the way as well. So stay tuned. See you guys next time. Also, be sure to write your questions in the comment section below if you want some of your questions to be in the next episode. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.